century, in the early 20th century, to expand the United States. I want to talk about that as it applies to today. Yesterday's program, we got a boatload of positive feedback on, a boatload. We've also had some interview suggestions. It looks like YouTube is up and running here, J-Dubs, which I'm very excited about. I want to confirm LinkedIn here in a matter of moments, and we're going to rock and roll. We have a critically important 1:45 meeting here in the studio. Is LinkedIn up and running, J-Dubs? All right, LinkedIn is going to be up and running in a matter of moments. For those who watch on LinkedIn, give us a heads up when that goes live if you can, please, sir. Like and share the show. We work hard for you. The only thing we ask in return is that you like and share the show, retweet the show. Engage us in the conversation, please. Engage us in the conversation. That's what we ask of you, please. That would mean the world to us. Let me know when LinkedIn is up and running and we can start the program, J-Dubs. Oh, you got LinkedIn up and running? Oh, that's a bummer. Well, we got to get the show going at the 36-minute marker here. Is it moments away, LinkedIn? I'm getting bombarded here from people saying LinkedIn is not up and running. I know. I'm letting you know. As the director of the program here, Vanessa Parkhill, welcome to the broadcast. Thank you kindly for watching, Vanessa Parkhill. All right, why don't we rock and roll, and then I guess get LinkedIn up and running for those that are asking. He's doing his best to get it up. Good Tuesday afternoon, guys. I'm Jerry Miller. Thank you kindly for joining us on the I Love CVille show. It is the late January. In fact, it's the 28th of January, Tuesday edition of the program. 50 degrees and change out there. I love it. Snow is melting. Today's program is fantastic, I think. I thought yesterday's show was great. We talked about cancel culture in Charlottesville, and are we at an all-time high with cancel culture with a portion of our community. A portion of the community has the belief or understanding that they are displaying or pursuing their best version of being an American by trying to cancel the folks that have a different political ideology than them. And it's just a mindset that is odd to me. It got me thinking about what is going to be the lead topic of today's show. And the lead topic of today's show is the 2025 version of Manifest Destiny. And give me a heads up, please. I'm getting bombarded with the show not being live on LinkedIn. Are you sure it's up and running on LinkedIn? Oh, fantastic. That's great. You just got it up and running on LinkedIn just in time. Thank you for those that are watching on LinkedIn. Thank you for your patience. And I appreciate you letting me know that the show was not live. Thank you. So on today's show, I want to talk about the 2025 version of this concept called Manifest Destiny that helped motivate or drive pioneers as they made their way from the East Coast to the West Coast. Taking uncharted territory and lands that were dangerous and dominated by bandits and frankly home to Native Americans, the rightful home of Native Americans, and slowly colonizing much of the United States. We've seen this concept of Manifest Destiny portrayed in today's television and streaming content, most notably in a show that Taylor Sheridan has done called 1888. Which I just finished watching, or 1883, excuse me. 1883 is a precursor to Yellowstone. 1883 was it 1923? Another one that I'm about to start. And I've already watched these, but I'm kind of going through the Taylor Sheridan content now because there's going to be a second season to 1923 in February, which I'm very excited about. So in 1883, Tim McGraw, Faith Hill, Sam Elliott, and a talented cast of characters, and it also include a cameo by Tom Hanks. Basically, we watch as a family and as immigrants from Europe make their way from Texas down the Oregon Trail to find their piece of the American dream. And the piece of the American dream in 1883 was associated with land ownership. And the only land that many of these could afford was the free land that was being offered in soon-to-be described or soon-to-be monikered territories that were not states yet, but soon-to-be states like Wyoming and Utah and Oregon and Montana. And it dawned on me after yesterday's show. And yesterday's show, I know the show was great, and I encourage you to watch the show. As I asked the question, is cancel culture at an all-time high in Charlottesville? And unfortunately, it is. Unfortunately, it is. There's a large portion of Charlottesville and the Central Virginia area that is angry that the presidential election did not go their way. And this anger is rearing its very ugly head through what Judah described, which I thought was a great description, the 2025 version of McCarthyism, where folks in our community, people we know, people we see at church or at the grocery store or in a professional setting or a personal setting or an athletic setting, are creating blacklists of businesses and business owners to boycott because they don't even know. They don't have even hard evidence. Even if they had hard evidence, it would be ridiculous. But they have in a hunch, if you may, a hunch that someone voted for a certain person or a certain party in this past presidential election. And this is not about Trump or Harris or Republican or Democrat. It's about human behavior and how you look at life. And cancel culture today is at an all-time high. A blacklist that's being accumulated or being aggregated of businesses you should avoid because folks think they have a hunch of who voted for whom. And it's a level of behavior I'm difficult comprehending. This motivation for creating this blacklist, the 2025 version of McCarthyism, is rooted in what this group of people think is their American duty. Their American duty to change the landscape of our country, the political culture of our country, for what they think is the best. Not what democracy would suggest is the best, us voting in the booth, but what they think is the best. And they fancy themselves the 2025 version of George Washington or Thomas Jefferson or Paul Revere, right? Some of the founding fathers of our nation. They fancy themselves the throwers of tea into water or a harbor, the Boston Tea Party, or riding horseback in the night with lanterns in their hands, screaming, "The redcoats are coming! Get your muskets and your shotguns ready to protect the country." And I pushed back on it yesterday, and yes, I'm going to catch flack for pushing back, but if you watch the show, we're unabashed and unafraid with our commentary. And after yesterday's program, I finished 1883, the Taylor Sheridan Western drama, the miniseries that is just excellent. It's just a fantastic show that I've now seen start to finish twice. And I got to thinking about Manifest Destiny. And Manifest Destiny, you think about an emotion or a driver of people. Manifest Destiny encouraged humans in the 1800s and early 1900s to leave the East Coast, their friends, their family, and what they knew and what they know, their lives, and to head westward beyond the Mississippi River, westward into prairies and plains and across the Colorado Rockies and head to Wyoming and Oregon and Montana and Utah, uncharted territories that were not even recognized as states. And to say that they were dangerous was an understatement. Criminals and bandits, the afterthoughts and discards of humanity, were already living in this area. Native Americans, and they were far from afterthoughts or discards, but they were the true owners of the land who had been there for generations, were fighting to maintain their grasp of what they had always known. And here you have pioneers, whether driven by home ownership, land ownership, driven by a pursuit of a new quality of life, pursuit of gold, pursuit of change, whatever it may be. They risk everything. They faced weather. They faced prey of human variety and prey of rattlesnake and bear and wolf and predator variety, animal variety. They faced gunfire. They faced uncertainty. And they did it with their pursuit of whatever drove them, whether land ownership, home ownership, wealth, something that better for their wife, their kids, their husbands, their families, whatever motivated them, that's what drove them. And I wanted to compare and contrast this type of mindset to what's happening to today and look at what Manifest Destiny is today. What is the 2025 version of Manifest Destiny? What is the 2025 version of risking everything you have in your life to go into an uncharted area for the pursuit of the unknown because you have hope that the unknown is better than your reality and what you have today? I'll repeat that, and it's unpack it with me. What is the 2025 version of Manifest Destiny, where you give up everything you know, your reality today, what you can expect today, for uncertainty and the unknown, based on hope and what could be better than what you have now? It's crazy to think about it this way. Is the 2025 version of Manifest Destiny, entrepreneurship? Is the 2025 version of Manifest Destiny resume circulating? Is the 2025 version of Manifest Destiny hybrid and remote work, where you have more time to yourself, more quality of life? Is the 2025 version of Manifest Destiny online dating, where maybe you struggle in person, but you have online dating to potentially increase your sample size for finding a life partner? What is the 2025 version of Manifest Destiny? I ask you, the viewer and listener, that question. And I'll follow that question by offering some perspective, okay? There's a large portion of Albemarle County and Charlottesville, because of how blue or left-leaning Albemarle County and the city of Charlottesville are. There's a large portion that is demoralized and depressed and downtrodden and in the darks and depths of despair right now because of how the election has gone. Folks talking about support groups and folks saying that I'm not sure how we can move forward as a country. The fascists are taking over. I hear that a lot. I hear the comparison to Nazi Germany all the time. And I want to offer this perspective for everyone. You think 2025 is challenging for you today? Imagine what it was like in 1883 when you were in a wagon, a horse-drawn wagon, a wagon made of splintered wood drawn by horses, crossing America through prairies, through canyons, up and through and down mountains, under 110-degree heat in the desert, weathering 0-degree temperature in the Rockies, avoiding rattlesnakes and wolves and bears, bandits, buckshot, armies, militia, Native Americans rightfully fighting for their land. And think about what you're going through now versus what Americans went through less than 200 years ago. Less than 200 years ago. And ask yourself if you have it better today than what Americans had less than 200 years ago. Perspective. Life, I don't profess to have anything figured out. I just want to wake up every day and be the best version of myself. And I fail at that. I fail at that more than I succeed at that. Waking up every day and being the best version of myself. Often I go to bed and I think of, man, I could have done all these things way better. But my goal each day is to wake up and be the best version of myself. That's it. And as I wake up every day and try to be the best version of myself, I think about perspective to help get me through the day. And today, the perspective we have in 2025 America, verse 1883, verse 1923, verse 1953, verse 1993, I'd say to me, today's America is way better than each of those dates that I just acknowledged. Prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. Are we perfect? No. Are we perfect? Far from it. But the upside and the potential in 2025 today, verse 1995 or 2005, is dramatically more significant. So I want to weave Judah Wickhauer in, then we'll get some partner announcements on the program. Viewers and listeners, let us know your thoughts. Jack Jewett, yes, Bill McChesney. Great local acknowledgement to Jack Jewett. 2025 version of Manifest Destiny. Very curious to hear what Judah Wickhauer's thoughts are on that. Very curious to hear of your thoughts on any of my monologue here. Judah, I value your perspective. Show is yours.
I definitely appreciate what you're talking about. I see that there is a certain push that that things need to be a certain way. That that I think your correlation with Manifest Destiny and the fact that that was kind of like some felt that was like a God-given right. And I think you mentioned a lot of the things that people had to overcome and struggle against. I think we often look at Manifest Destiny from the perspective of white people, of people who became the Americans that we see around us today. But I think less talked about is the fact that oftentimes that meant doing whatever you wanted to anyone in your way. That was, practically engaging in slavery to build railroads across the country, disregarding the homes and sacred lands of Native Americans. And I think that ties in very well with what you're talking about, because here we are looking at, and it's not just these people we're talking about. I think there are others who take this Manifest Destiny stance, and frankly, anybody that thinks they are thinks they have a mandate from God scares me. I mean, that's the kind of person that will do anything, lower themselves to any depth, to do something that they feel they're, like I said, God has called them to. Has God called you to eradicate someone who's politically different than you are? I mean, that should scare all of us.
It's a segue from yesterday, and this movement from folks in Charlottesville, Albemarle County, and the Commonwealth, the country, to pursue what they think is their duty as American to eradicate other Americans of certain ideology, political ideology, creating the 2025 version of a blacklist, basically McCarthyism.
Yeah.
Is that a influence or a movement or a belief, a passion, an obsession for some that is rooted in a concept that is on the family tree of Manifest Destiny, on the family tree of finding improved quality of life finding a footing in a new world that's better than your current reality? Or is that an obsession, an influence, a passion, a human behavior that's rooted in insanity or psychosis or closed-minded thinking, a byproduct of siloed experiences and siloed social media and communicative environments? It's comparing and contrasting generations is something that's great for a talk show, something that's done in AP history, something that's done at the college level, something that is going to be good for a cocktail party. When folks in 1883 told their families and friends, I'm going to leave Tennessee, I'm going to leave Virginia, I'm going to leave North Carolina, and I'm going to go completely across the country into an area I don't know, without a map I don't have, follow guides that I don't know if I can trust, into an area of the country that is not colonized or territorialized or civil or safe, and I'm going to do that for the hope of finding land and a better quality of life. I'm sure those folks were called crazy, were called insane, obsessed. And here's a very straightforward question. You and I are probably 180 degrees different in just about everything we see with life, which I think makes for a complimentary dialogue for a talk show. Do you think the 2025 version of life is better than the 2005 version of life, the 2015 version of life in Charlottesville and Central Virginia?
In some ways. I think oftentimes we see advances in, like, it's great that everybody can have a smartphone, but does that really make our lives better? It can be helpful. I think oftentimes, though, we mistake a lot of these things for living better lives, and we're talking about some pretty massive jumps in property valuations. We're talking about big jumps in
assessments. I'm going to highlight something that happened when we opened the mailbox yesterday.
Taxes, and we talk about people having trouble finding a place to live. I think oftentimes we trade one thing for another thing, and sometimes we're getting something good, and sometimes we're getting rid of something good. So I don't know that for me, there's not an easy answer of yes, today is 100% better than 2005. I think in most cases it is better. We're, as humans, as a society, we're, I think, moving closer and closer to a goal of, equity. People having the same opportunities. People, we're trying to build a low barrier shelter here in Charlottesville. Most of us want to help the people around us, with some exceptions.
I think 2025 is without a doubt better than 2005 in Charlottesville, and without a doubt better than 2015 in Charlottesville. Is the cost of living more expensive? Yes, absolutely. But think about the democratization of education and the democratization of opportunity in 2025 versus 2015, and certainly versus 2005. With the internet, with what Judah highlighted, the smartphones we have in our hands, we are as men and women, as Albemarle Countyans and as Charlottesvillians, as Central Virginians, able to utilize the internet to learn about anything we want as long as we're putting the work into it. We're able to access any information we want as long as we put the work into it. And this democratization of learning, of education, and of opportunity is a level of the American dream that we've never seen before. There was a time when we were pursuing the American dream where we had to get on a horse-drawn carriage, a horse-drawn wagon, and go across the Mississippi River into prairies and plains, across the Rockies, battling 100-degree heat and 10 degrees below temperature, bears, wolves, rattlesnakes, bandits, Native Americans fighting for what they believed was right, all for the pursuit of the American dream. Today, the American dream is at our fingertips, literally and figuratively, with the internet and the phones we have in our hands. You want to learn how to be a business owner? You want to learn how to be an entrepreneur? You want to learn how to be a coder? You want to know how to be a graphic designer? You want to learn how to be a mechanic? You want to learn how to fix something at your house? You want to learn how to be an engineer? You want to learn how to trade stocks? You want to learn how to about ETFs? You want to learn about real estate investing? You want to learn how you can do seller finance deals, how you can buy property without going through banks? You want to get your real estate license? It's at your fingertips. You just got to put the work in. There's no better time to be an American in pursuit of the American dream than right now. Period. Point in case. You just have to be willing to do the work. And get off your tail and do the work. And maybe that's a glasses half full perspective, and that's who I am. All right. A lot we're going to cover on the talk show. 1 o'clock here. Ginny Hu watching the program. Let's get her photo on screen. I know it doesn't affect all the listeners immediately, she said, but I would love to discuss how Virginia Democrats are going after homeschooling. They are still against parental rights, and if they win on the homeschool front, they won't stop there. I have had a heavy hitter within the local political ecosystem reach out to me via email, encouraging me, voluntelling me, I was voluntold, to get Dr. Meg Bryce back on the program. I won't out who send me the email, because how we get the information we get is because we understand the concept of confidentiality. But this particular heavy hitter said, it's time you get Dr. Bryce back on the show. We need for her to offer her perspective on what Virginia Democrats are doing, specifically Katrina Carlson and Amy Laufer, to try to push her off the Board of Education. So I will reach out to Dr. Bryce via either Facebook message or email to see if she'd like to come back on the program and extend that invitation. I will do that today. Neil Williamson asked the question, how does Jerry define the American dream? Neil Williamson also says this, despite the lofty idealism of Manifest Destiny, the rapid territorial expansion over the first half of the 19th century resulted not only in the war with Mexico, but in the dislocation and brutal mistreatment of Native Americans, Hispanics, and other European occupants of the territories now being occupied by the United States. 100% right. I've also found this, that there's this unfortunate mindset in today's society of, instead of building something for yourself, trying to take it from someone else who's already built it. It is much easier to take what someone has already built through sweat equity and blood and tears than to go through the same blood and tears process and sweat equity yourself. So a lot of what he's talking about with Manifest Destiny, taking what was already there, is the downside of that pursuit of the American dream. And he asked me a very straightforward question, Neil Williamson, the president of the Free Enterprise Forum. What is Jerry's definition of the American dream? That's a great question. My response to that would be, the definition of the American dream is different for everybody that pursues their version of the American dream. My version of the American dream is what is the absolute best for my wife and two boys. I want my wife and our two boys to have a quality of life that was better than the quality of life that my wife had and I had. And my wife and I both had great quality of lives growing up. I want them to be able to have more than we had. Part of my version of the American dream is to pursue employment where every day that I wake up, and I understand that this is a luxury, where every day that I wake up, I'm able to get out of bed when the clock blares in the 5 o'clock hour before I'm driving our oldest to school, and I'm able to say, I cannot wait to effing get to work today because I effing love what I do. This morning alone, I met with a business owner who's looking to deploy 6 figures in the pursuit of another established business. The established business said, I want to exit what we've been doing for so long. Help us find a suitor to buy it. I met with this potential suitor to buy it. We'll structure a deal, negotiate the deal, figure out the financing if it's not all cash, and we'll make both parties happy. This afternoon, I'm going to meet with a real estate developer and one of the largest commercial owners in the city in Albemarle County. And we're going to figure out, as he heads to the backside of his life, what are the next steps for his holdings. We're going to meet with a UVA professor this afternoon who's looking to expand their technology footprint, uncertain how to do so. Location, infrastructure. We'll figure that plan out. I love what I do. So my 2025 version of the American dream, and it's different for everyone. First and foremost is my wife and our 2 boys having a more opportunity and upside and quality of life than I had, than my wife had, and ours was pretty damn good. And that's a salute and a tip of the cap to my parents and my in-laws for what they provided. And then the second part to answer that question is to wake up every day when I work my ass off 60 plus hours a week and to absolutely adore and love the work that I'm doing for that kind of time away from family. That's my American dream. I posted this on the I Love CVille network yesterday evening. All in a 4-hour span. My oldest legitimately kicked me in the balls, poked me in the eye, my contact lens fell out after the poke, and he mistakenly stepped on the lens. And then my youngest ran through the living room right before bed after his diaper and afternoon clothes were taken off, before we can get him in his new diaper and his PJs, buck-ass naked, sprinted across the house, spear tackled buck-ass naked the family German Shepherd, got up, laughed at him. I grabbed him, took him to his room, buck-ass naked, sat him in the chair, the recliner of his room, to try to get his pajama top on and his onesie on and his diaper on. He mistakenly headbutts me in the nose, and I drip blood from my nose onto his Curious George book that he was reaching for. All in one stretch of life this evening. And you know what? I wouldn't have traded it for anything in the world. I got poked in the eye and kneed in the balls, and my contact lens got destroyed. My German Shepherd got spear tackled by a naked 35-pound 2.5-year-old, nearly 2.5-year-old. And then when I pick him up and grab him and take him to his room and sit him on a recliner, he grabs a Curious George book or attempts it, headbutts me in the nose, and I bleed on the book he's grabbing for. And I wouldn't change a damn thing about it. And I can't wait to tell everyone in the world about it. And it's a memory I'll never forget. And before that interaction happened, my wife and I go to the mailbox and we get something that has Albemarle County letterhead on it. I knew what it was. Everyone that's a homeowner is getting these right now. The updated assessments. The updated assessment comes in the mail. I rip open the assessment. I know it's going to be higher. We bought this home in Ivy in June. The assessment right after a closing. In an extremely hot market, and frankly speaking, a micro market in Ivy that is extremely popular. That's why we moved there. Why do we live in Charlottesville and Albemarle County in Central Virginia? Because we have an abundance of amenities and quality of life. We have outdoors, we have sports, we have music, we have restaurants, we have hiking. We have the University of Virginia, we have opportunity. That's why we live here. That's why everyone wants to live here. That's why people are moving here. Do we have our flaws? Absolutely. But that's why people are moving here. Why do we move to this micro market? Because of Ivy? Because of everything that I just rattled off, plus a location that's close to everything. Everything. Bought this crib in June. Literally bought the crib in June. The bill comes out in January. The assessment that was factored into our mortgage calculation, 25%, actually 30% down payment on the whip, on the crib, 70% financed, a jumbo situation, 7.1%, happy to have it. Complaining about rates, would I want something in the 5s or the 4s? F yeah, of course I would. Happy to get one in the 7s? Yes, because when it drops, I'll refinance it. And we got 70% equity out of the gate, 30% of equity out of the gate, with the 30% down payment. I knew the assessment was going to get higher. Did I think it was going to jump 23.5% from June until January? 23.5% in 6 months? No. But I knew it was going to increase. And you know who really takes it on the chin in that regard? You know who really gets kicked in the balls by the oldest son? Poked in the eye by the oldest son? Head-butted in the nose? Blood dripping on the Curious George book by the youngest son? My neighbors. Their assessments tied directly to the comp that just sold in June. Tied to the comp that just sold in December. Another comp in the neighborhood, under market and under contract in 3 days. I can assure you a bidding war higher than asking. Asking 1,295 out of the gate. 1,295,000 out of the gate. Under contract in not day, hours, tens of hours. Ladies and gentlemen, props to Liz Rainey for getting that under contract. And I ask you, the viewer and listener, this question. I ask you, Judah Wickhauer, this question. I ask you, Judah Wickhauer, this question. Give me a bill year over year that upticks 23.5%. I ask you, the viewer and listener, and don't tie it to me. Don't tie it to me opening an envelope out of a mailbox in Ivy and seeing an assessment that jumped 23.5%, okay? I want you to tie it to the folks that are catty-cornered to me that are retired, that got the same bill that opened and saw a 23, 25% uptick because some family with a battering, bruising puppy pack of Mountain Dew chugging Jack Russell Terriers, my boys, moved into the house across the street from them. And they said, these mother effers, they bought that house for that price, and I'm going to this mailbox and opening this envelope, and it's 25% higher. Are those people across the street getting 25% improved service? Better service? And I'm going to ask you, the viewer and listener, this question as you have the right lower thirds on screen. The assessment lower third. I got a serious question for you. Do we expect elected officials, the Board of Supervisors, to lower the tax rate? Does anyone think that the tax rate is going to lower with the increase in assessments? Across the board, on average, a 5.1% uptick. 5.1% for Albemarle County. The Samuel Miller District, Jim Andrews' district, got the largest uptick, 7% plus in the Samuel Miller District. Holmes and Ivy really got an astronomical uptick, but that's part of the Jack Jewett District, which saw other homes with not nearly as big a jump. Are we going to have elected officials? Ned Galloway, friend of the program. Ann Malik, friend of the program. Diantha McKeel, friend of the program. Mike Pruitt, friend of the program. Jim Andrews, friend of the program. Who am I forgetting over here? B. Lepisto Kirtley. Don't really know her. Not throwing shade on B. Not really interacting with me. Wish you would be. Got nothing but love for you, Lepisto Kirtley. Got nothing but love for you. Malik's been here. McKeel's been here. Pruitt's been here. Galloway's been here. Andrews has been here. Ned's a friend. Mm-hmm. Ned's a friend. Do we expect the Board of Supervisors to lower the tax rate, Judah? Do you think the Board of Supervisors will lower the tax rate when all our assessments in Albemarle County, in some cases, are upticking year over year 23.5%? On average, 5.1%. At a time, Judah, when our groceries are obscenely expensive, gasoline still well above 3, credit card debt tied to a rate that we've been taught. It's on the screen right now. Will the Fed cut rates? It's on CNBC right now. I've been talking about effing Jerome Powell and rates for 24 months. Will the county cut the tax rate? What's your answer?
If I had a magic 8-ball in front of me, I believe it would say not likely.
It would be hell no, is what the magic 8-ball would say. It would be hell no. And what's odd about not cutting the tax rate is this. An elected official, how they got on the dais was how? How did they get on the dais?
By running for the seat?
By securing the popular vote in their district. They got on the dais by securing the popular vote in their district. Right? That's what they did. If they wanted to secure the popular vote, which was important to them to get on the dais, the popular choice would be to lower the tax rate. They have a lot of birds chirping in their ears, and some of those birds are tied to needing a new school and the northern feeder pattern. Some of those birds chirping are tied to bicycle and pedestrian and walking and sidewalks. Some of those birds chirping in their ears are tied to expanding the developmental area. More housing. Some of those birds are chirping about water and infrastructure. Some of those birds are talking about cut the taxes on meals and retail and shopping and spending and put it on rooftops. But the popular choice, what got them there, winning the popular vote in their district, would be to lower the tax rate. And a tax rate that stays the same at a time when the assessments uptick to this clip is a tax on everyone. It is a tax on everyone. And further kicks in the balls those living on the financial margin. And it further demoralizes single income earners, single parent earners, fixed income households, unemployed households. And it certainly impacts folks of color at a greater clip than folks that are white. You want to keep the community from gentrifying, and if you truly want to be advocates for housing affordability, you lower the effing tax rate. If you don't lower the effing tax rate and you go for these pet projects, then all you are doing is talking out of one side of your mouth and doing something completely different, or whatever the hell that saying is. You're far from walking the walk and talking the talk. Prove me wrong. 23.5% year over year, ladies and gentlemen. Deep Throat says this: in my old neighborhood in Austin, Texas, everyone was massively underassessed. You don't have to report sales price in Texas. It was a pact among neighbors that when you sell, you tell the buyer, do not respond to assessor inquiries. When I sold, it was at 3 times the assessment. John Blair on LinkedIn. Jerry, it's worth pointing out that as late as the 1990s, you were charged 1% to 2% of the total value of the stock you purchased when you took a new position in a stock. Today, most people pay next to nothing for a trade. If you don't think that's enormous progress from a consumer perspective, you are not paying attention. It's a great comment from John Blair. How about this one? Guys? And someone's going to have to give me the exact year. Maybe John can give me this exact year. Maybe Deep Throat can give me this exact year. Maybe Michael Guthrie watching the program, Dr. John Shabe watching the program can give me this exact year. Maybe James Watson. Did you know that there was a time when you were taxed on gains from the sale of your personal residence, Judah? Was it the year 1997? I think it was 97. Someone correct me if I'm wrong here. Great question for CPA Tucker Waldriff if you've ever's watching the program. Love Tucker. Equity Financial Services, great firm. Today, if you're a married couple, the first $500,000 in gains on your personal residence after you sell, sheltered. $250,000 as a single person. That was not always the case. today's opportunity for establishing wealth or pursuing your version of the American dream with the democratization of education, of learning, and the upside from the internet as applied to business is more significant than it's ever been. John just gave a perfect example. It's worth pointing out that as the late 1990s, you were charged 1% to 2% for the total value of the stock you purchased when you took a new position back in stock. I just bought some Palantir today, and I bought another tranche of NVIDIA today as well. NVIDIA trading at a 20% discount after yesterday's sell-off, lost nearly $600 billion in market cap yesterday, the largest loss for an American stock in history. $600 billion in market cap yesterday alone. Everyone's panicking. What did I do? I bought another tranche. Upside opportunity, and I didn't pay a dime for that trade. I bought Palantir today. Didn't pay a dime for that trade. And I did it on my phone. On my phone, as opposed to going into some trader's office and making an appointment. Deep Throat, Section 121, primary residence exemption went up from $125K to $250K in 1997. I was right, 1997. That means you have another $1.25 to play with if you sell a personal residence. And you want to hear some upside and some opportunity? Do it every 2 effing years. My wife and I stayed in our Glenmore house for not even 4 years. Why? Because we saw upside and opportunity. We bought it in March of 2020 when the world was coming to an end. We toured a home that was stagnant and stale on the market for nearly 2 years in a neighborhood that was trouble moving, Glenmore. We took a tour where I literally got on my phone, unrepresented, called a listing broker and said, I want to see this house. She said, why do you want to see it? Because it hasn't sold in 2 years, and they're considering offering seller financing. It says it right here in the description. I got a house in Redfields that's hot that I know I can sell. I sold it by myself through Facebook, doing the tours myself, parlayed that money from Redfields on Rockledge Drive into a seller finance deal in Glenmore on a home that's been around for 2 years unsold, where seller finance was touted in the first 2 or 3 lines. Did it at a time in March of 2020 where we had to put a hazmat suit on and mask to tour the home, where there were crickets everyone else. And I said, you know what? Americans will not succumb to COVID. I'm going to get this house at a 35-40% discount, and I'm going to do it through a seller fi deal without a bank to make it more advantageous for me. And we did just that. We stayed there 4 years, got it for $700,000, put 20% down thanks to the Redfield sell, sold it for $1.2 million, took that $500,000 delta, sheltered, no taxes, parlayed it into something closer to everybody, for everybody. American dream is live and well. Today's version of Manifest Destiny is whatever the hell you want to make it out to be. Do you want today's version of Manifest Destiny and the American dream to be more time with your grandkids, more time with your children, more time with your wife? Do you want it to be professionally something that you enjoy doing a lot more? Do you want to spend more time with your dogs, more time outside, more time remote, hybrid working? Are you tired of commuting? Do you want a different job? Do you want to eat better? Do you want to change? Do you want to turn your passion into your profession? Do you want to look better? Do you want an improved dating pool? Do you want better hair? Do you want better skin? Do you want better sexual performance? Do you want better health? Do you want to meet more guys and more gals? You can do all of it right now. Right now. You just got to want it and do it. Manifest Destiny. The population in Charlottesville that says, woe is me. It's our American duty to try to destroy this country. F you. This country's never been better. And it's not about politics. It's not about politics. It's about what we have today and what we didn't have even 20 years ago. 20 years ago, you used the internet for AIM, instant messaging, and to post some pics of your calzone on Facebook, and to maybe make a connection with somebody. Now you're streaming content 20 hours a week for hundreds of thousands of IP addresses every year. That's the American dream. That's the 2025 version of Manifest Destiny. It's the Tuesday edition of the I Love CVille show. Judah Wickower and Jerry Miller.